Growing every day is not a choice for some. It is a necessity. But growth does not happen by accident or by waiting for motivation to strike. It demands something more. It requires you to push yourself even when it's uncomfortable, to face your distractions and overcome the thoughts that hold you back. This video will show you how to take control of your mind and train your focus to rise above laziness and hesitation. You will learn practical steps to build strength in your daily habits that create real change. If you want to stop making excuses and start seeing progress, stay with me. What you are about to hear can change the way you approach every day and lead you to the success you want. Growth starts with a decision. This is your moment to make it happen. Let's get started. Number 1, force yourself to do what you keep avoiding. Most people already know what they need to do. They've thought about it. They've talked about it. But they keep walking around it. They keep making it tomorrow's job. They push it back, hoping one day it'll get easier. But the truth is, it doesn't get easier. The only thing that changes is the time you lose. The days stack up. The pressure builds. And the gap between where you are and where you should be gets wider. You have to force yourself to face the thing you keep avoiding. You have to look it in the eye and say, today is the day. It's not going to feel good. Growth doesn't feel good at first. It feels like discomfort. It feels like effort. It feels like sacrifice. That's why most people don't do it. They wait for a better moment. They wait for motivation. But waiting is a trap. You don't wait for motivation. You build it by action. You create it by doing the very thing you're afraid of. Every time you avoid something, you train your mind to back down. You teach yourself that discomfort is a signal to run, and that becomes your habit. The hard conversation you keep skipping, the skill you said you would learn, the health goal you promised to start on Monday, it piles up. And when you avoid it, your confidence drops a little. You may not notice it at first, but something in you feels weaker. And if you keep doing it, you start doubting yourself. But when you face it, when you finally say, I'm going to do this, something changes. It may be messy, it may not be perfect, but now you've moved, you've shifted direction, you've taken back control, and that gives you strength, that gives you power. Because growth only comes when you step through the wall, not around it, not under it, through it. You need to understand that your future depends on how you handle the things you avoid. That task you keep delaying might be the key to your next level. That uncomfortable conversation might be the door to healing. That business idea you keep pushing aside might be your way out of struggle. But you'll never know if you don't force yourself to act. This is where discipline comes in. Discipline is not about being perfect. It's about being honest. Ask yourself, what have I been avoiding? Write it down. Face it directly. Then make a decision. Not a wish, not a hope, a decision. Decide that today you will act, and then follow through. No matter how you feel, there are going to be voices in your head telling you it's not the right time, that you're not ready, that maybe next week is better. Don't listen. That voice is the one that's kept you stuck. That voice is not your friend. Growth demands you push past that voice. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to begin. You just need to move. There's something powerful about action. It doesn't need to be massive, but it needs to be real. Even a small step toward what you've been avoiding will start building momentum. You'll feel it in your chest, a kind of clarity, a kind of strength, because now you're no longer a prisoner of hesitation. You're a person who acts, and that changes everything. Avoidance doesn't protect you. It limits you. It keeps you small. It keeps you stuck in the same patterns, and days turn into weeks, weeks into years. People live whole lives in avoidance. They die with potential still trapped inside them, not because they weren't capable, but because they didn't push themselves to face the things they feared. Don't be one of them. Force is not a bad word. It means taking charge of your growth. It means refusing to let fear decide your limit. Growth is not about comfort. It's about direction. It's about taking the next right step, even if it's uncomfortable, especially if it's uncomfortable. What have you been putting off? Is it starting a new habit? Is it ending a toxic relationship? Is it applying for the job you feel unqualified for? Is it finally speaking up for yourself? You already know what it is. You don't need more time. You don't need more planning. You need more courage. And courage comes from doing the thing anyway. You've got to decide who you want to be, the person who talks about growth, or the person who lives it, because they are not the same. One lives in theory, the other lives in reality. Growth doesn't respond to wishes. It responds to movement, even small, awkward, uncomfortable movement. That's how you build a life that means something, not by staying safe, but by stepping up when it's hard. You have one life, one chance to see how far you can go. Don't waste it standing at the edge. Don't spend it making excuses. Don't wait for a sign. The sign is the discomfort. That's where the work is. That's where the change begins. Force yourself to have the discipline to follow through, even when you're tired, even when it's boring, even when nobody's watching. That's where growth happens, quietly, privately, in the background. And then one day it shows up in your results, in your strength, in your mindset, in the way you carry yourself. And remember this, every time you do what you've been avoiding, you take your power back. You prove to yourself that you're not your fear. You're not your hesitation. You are the person who shows up, who does the work, who keeps moving forward. Because growth is not a gift. It's a fight to become who you know you're capable of being. And that fight starts the moment you stop avoiding and start acting. That's how you earn your confidence. That's how you build your future. One uncomfortable decision at a time. One honest action at a time. That's how you grow. That's how you win. That's how you change. Number 2, challenge your mind with something difficult every day. Your mind will not grow on its own. It will stay where it is unless you give it something that stretches it. Most people wake up and repeat the same thoughts they had yesterday. They go through the same routines. They think the same way. They choose the same answers. That's not growth. That's maintenance. And maintenance is not enough. If you want to live a meaningful life, you have to introduce your mind to new challenges every single day. Your brain is a tool. If you don't sharpen it, it gets dull. If you don't test it, it loses strength. But when you push your thinking past what feels easy, you begin to build a sharper, clearer, and stronger mind. That means picking up something every day that makes you stop and think. It can be a difficult book, a new topic you've never explored, a real problem that needs a solution, an idea that makes you uncomfortable but teaches you something new. That's how you grow. The people who rise above the rest are not the ones who have more talent. They are the ones who train their minds to handle difficulty. Mental strength is not given. It's developed through exposure to things that challenge you, not just physically, but intellectually, emotionally, strategically. When you face something that you don't immediately understand and you choose not to run from it, but to engage with it. That's how you get smarter. You don't have to solve everything in a day, but you have to sit with it. You have to struggle with it, because that struggle sharpens you. That struggle pushes you to look at things differently. That's how you expand your ability to process the world. Every challenge forces you to access parts of your thinking that usually remain untouched. You start becoming more aware, more precise, more alert. If you only do what you already know how to do, your mind stays inside a small box, and nothing powerful happens in that box. The minute you step out and say, I don't know how to do this yet, but I'm going to figure it out, something happens. Your confidence grows. Your problem-solving abilities improve. Your memory gets stronger. You start connecting ideas faster. That's how you build the kind of intelligence that creates results. There's something important about choosing hard things for your brain to work on. It makes you more focused. It forces you to slow down and think deeply. Most people live in distraction. They never challenge their attention. They can't sit still with one idea for longer than a few minutes. That's not how a strong mind is built. You build it by diving into complexity. You build it by working on something that takes more than just surface-level thinking. You also begin to develop mental patience. When you sit with a difficult task and resist the urge to give up or check out, you teach your mind to stay calm under pressure. That's a valuable skill, because life will throw difficult moments at you. And if your mind is trained to stay in the fight rather than escape it, you will always have an edge. This also helps you grow your self-respect. Because every time you complete something that challenged you mentally, you feel stronger. You walk a little taller. You look at yourself differently, not because someone else clapped for you, but because you know you put yourself in front of something hard and didn't back down. That's a powerful feeling. That's how you begin to trust yourself. And this kind of mental challenge doesn't always come from books or study. It can come from difficult conversations, from taking full responsibility for something you've been avoiding, from learning a new system, from changing a deeply ingrained belief. The key is to identify what stretches your mind and make it part of your daily life, not occasionally, every day. That repetition builds the muscle. You don't wait for difficulty to find you. You go find it. You choose to sit in front of it willingly. That's the attitude that separates those who stay average from those who become exceptional. When you wake up and ask, what can I do today that will stretch my thinking? You are taking ownership of your growth. You are taking charge of the most powerful tool you've been given. Your mind is capable of handling more than you think. But if you keep feeding it easy answers and fast content, it doesn't get the nutrients it needs to grow. You need depth. You need tension. You need work that pushes your mind to new levels. That's what makes you sharper in every area of life. When your mind grows, your decisions improve. Your standards rise. Your vision becomes clearer. You don't get overwhelmed as easily. You become harder to shake, stronger under pressure, more focused on what matters. All because you made the decision to stop living inside your comfort zone and start building a stronger brain. You don't grow by staying familiar. You grow by stepping into the unfamiliar and figuring it out. That's the process. One challenge at a time. One new idea at a time. You don't need to change everything overnight, but you need to challenge something every day. It could be the way you think about money, the way you handle stress, the way you approach discipline. It could be learning to say no when you usually say yes. It could be sitting with a hard truth instead of avoiding it. Growth is in the resistance. Growth is in the tension. Growth is in the space between what's comfortable and what's necessary. The more often you choose that space, the more powerful your mind becomes. This is where clarity is born. This is where resilience is built. This is where mastery begins. Challenge your mind until your default reaction changes, until your first instinct is to engage, not escape, until your thoughts become sharper, your words more intentional, your choices more strategic. This doesn't come from talking about growth. It comes from living it through difficulty every single day. Number 3, push your limits even when you feel like quitting. There's a moment in every person's journey when quitting starts to sound like the easiest option. The weight feels too heavy. The hours feel too long. The progress feels too slow. And something in you starts to whisper that maybe this isn't worth it. Maybe you should back off. Maybe you've done enough. But that's the very moment that defines who you are becoming. Because anyone can keep going when it's easy, but only a few keep pushing when everything in them wants to stop. Growth doesn't happen when you're comfortable. It shows up when you're tired, but you take one more step. When you feel like you've hit your limit, but you dig deeper, that's when you start unlocking new strength. Because your real capacity doesn't reveal itself at the beginning. It shows up after you've been tested, after your energy runs low, after your mind starts looking for excuses. That's when your potential starts to emerge. When you push yourself through the urge to quit, something shifts inside you. You stop being the person who only works when things feel good. You become the person who chooses to finish, no matter how heavy it gets. That kind of strength doesn't come from talent. It comes from decision. The decision to keep showing up. The decision to stretch what you think your limit is. Because most of the time, your limit is just a line your mind made up to protect you from discomfort. If you always listen to that signal, you'll live small. You'll tap out early. You'll miss the transformation, waiting on the other side of resistance. You have to be willing to override that voice, not because it's lying, but because it doesn't know how strong you're willing to become. That voice is there to keep you safe. But growth was never about staying safe. Growth is about stepping into the challenge and refusing to retreat. Some of the most important breakthroughs in your life will happen right after you wanted to give up. You'll never reach them if you walk away too soon. Most people never reach that breakthrough because they back off when it starts to burn. They confuse fatigue with failure. But being tired doesn't mean you're done. It means you're doing the work. It means you're getting closer to the edge of who you've been. That's where the change lives. Not in staying the same, not in hitting pause, but in breaking through that old version of yourself. And that takes force. It takes demanding more of yourself. Even when it hurts, even when your body says stop, and your mind says take the easy way out. That's when you build discipline that lasts. That's when you become mentally tougher. Because now your actions are no longer controlled by feeling. They're driven by purpose. Every time you push past your limit, you increase your capacity. Your endurance expands. Your confidence builds. Your threshold for difficulty rises. That's not just about work or fitness. That applies to your habits, your decisions, your goals. You stop folding when things get intense. You stop negotiating with your excuses. You begin to trust yourself in pressure moments because you've trained for them. Think about the strongest people you've seen, the ones who seem unshaken by difficulty. That strength didn't show up by accident. It was earned. It was built by pushing one more time when they didn't feel like it. That's the difference. Most quit when they're uncomfortable. The few who win push again. They say just a little more, just one more set, just one more hour, just one more effort. And that last push takes them into territory they've never seen. There's power in finishing what you started. There's power in looking back and knowing you had every reason to stop. But you didn't. You kept going. You stayed in it. And that decision rewired something in you. You started to see yourself as someone who doesn't quit just because it gets hard. That's how self-respect grows, not through talk, through action. You begin to build a reputation with yourself. And when you trust yourself, you stop fearing the hard thing. You already know what it feels like to quit. You already know what it feels like to stop. When it gets hard, now it's time to see what happens. When you keep going, when you don't let the pain decide your pace, when you don't let tired thoughts control your step, that version of you is more focused, more resilient, more grounded. And every time you meet your edge and say, I'm going past this, you bring that version of you closer to reality. Pushing your limits doesn't mean being reckless. It means being intentional. It means recognizing that the real rewards are always placed just beyond your current effort. They're not handed to the comfortable. They're earned by the ones who kept climbing when their legs were shaking, who kept building when they didn't feel inspired, who stayed focused when everyone else was distracted. Your potential is bigger than your past, but you won't touch it if you live in the zone where everything feels familiar. You have to go to the places where you don't know how it's going to feel, where you don't know if you can finish. That's the training ground. That's where you stretch your abilities into something greater. There's no secret to growth. You push, you fail, you recover, you push again. And every time you do, you're carving out a mindset that won't be broken by difficulty. A mindset that sees discomfort as fuel, not a wall. A mindset that sees pressure as proof that you're going in the right direction. Don't stop when it gets hard. That's the starting point. That's when the real work begins. That's when your limits get exposed and your strength starts to grow. That's when the real shift happens. Not when it's easy, when it's tough, when it's overwhelming, when everything in you says, slow down. That's the moment to dig in and go one more round. That's how you rise. That's how you evolve. That's how you start building a life that reflects the strength you always had, but never fully used. Number 4, show up strong when no one is watching you. The real test of your character is not how you act when the lights are on. It's not about what you post online or how loud you speak in a crowd. It's about who you are when no one else is around. When there's no applause, when there's no recognition, when there's no one keeping score, that's where strength is built. That's where discipline is shaped. That's where growth becomes real. When you wake up in the morning and no one's checking on you, do you still keep your promises? When no one will notice if you skip the hard work, do you still show up for it? That's the question that defines the difference between average and exceptional. Most people perform when someone is watching, but the few who live with purpose, they perform for their own standard. They live by their own values. They don't need an audience to do the right thing. It's easy to act strong when there's pressure from the outside. When someone is expecting results, when people are cheering you on. But the strength that lasts is the kind that shows up in silence. The kind that gets up before the world wakes up. The kind that keeps pushing even when the world isn't paying attention. That's real inner power. That's the foundation of everything meaningful. Nobody hands you discipline. You develop it when you train yourself to rise and deliver even when it's quiet. Even when there's no feedback. Even when no one sends you a message saying good job. It's in those quiet hours that you shape the kind of mindset that never falls apart. Because if you need attention to stay consistent, you'll always be at the mercy of other people. But if you can master yourself in private, you'll be unstoppable in public. Some of the most important decisions in your life happen when no one else will ever know. No one sees you getting up after a bad night of sleep and choosing to stay on track. No one sees you rejecting an easy way out and taking the harder path that keeps you honest. But you see it, you know, and your life will always reflect the choices you make in those moments. When you show up strong in silence, you develop self-respect. That's more valuable than praise, because praise fades, but self-respect grows. Every time you do what you said you'd do without needing someone else to validate it, you build a deeper connection with yourself, and that becomes a source of confidence that can't be shaken. You stop looking for permission. You stop waiting for support. You act from a place of internal strength. The people who reach the highest levels in life aren't the ones who work only when they feel motivated. They're the ones who have learned how to be consistent without attention. They don't complain when no one notices their effort. They don't get discouraged when the world stays silent, because they're not working for the world. They're working for their vision, and their standard is too high to let silence slow them down. If you want to grow, you have to stop relying on someone else to notice your effort. You have to be willing to build in the dark, to train when no one is watching, to stay focused, even when it seems like nothing is happening. That kind of patience and persistence is rare, but it's what makes all the difference. It's how you separate yourself. It's how you become someone that others can't ignore later. You can't fake strength when you're alone. That's where the truth shows up. That's where your habits are that's where your mindset becomes clear. Because it's not about performing anymore. It's about who you really are when the room is empty. That's where your future is being built. Not in the noise, but in the quiet hours, the early mornings, the late nights, the private work that no one claps for. And that work matters more than anything else. Because that's the work that prepares you for the storms. That's the work that makes sure you don't fall apart when pressure comes. If you've already been standing tall when no one was looking, then nothing can shake you when the spotlight hit. You've already done the work. You've already proven it to yourself. You have to learn to enjoy the quiet wins, the ones no one sees, the ones that feel small but are building something big inside of you. Like finishing that workout no one asked you to do, like sticking to your routine even when it feels boring, like taking the harder path when no one would have blamed you for taking the easy one. Those moments matter. They stack up. They build momentum. They create inner strength. Don't wait for a crowd to validate your effort. Create your own standard and live by it. Wake up and ask yourself, what do I need to do today? Regardless of who's watching, then go do it every day without needing praise, without chasing attention. That's how leaders are formed. That's how real power is developed. That's how trust is built with yourself. There's a quiet kind of power in consistency, without recognition, in strength without noise, in showing up every day for yourself, not for approval, not for likes, just because it matters, just because you promised yourself. That's where growth lives, in the early reps, in the long hours, in the silent battles. That's where your future is being shaped. And if you stay committed in that place, if you keep showing up strong when it's just you and your decision, there will come a time when your results speak louder than anything you ever had to say. People will wonder how you became so focused, how you became so grounded, and it'll be because you stayed loyal to your path, even when the room was empty. Because you built your strength in private, not for praise, but for progress. Number 5, do one thing today that scares your comfort zone. Growth doesn't happen by doing what's easy. It doesn't show up when everything feels familiar and safe. If your days are built around routine and predictability, then chances are you're not challenging yourself enough. You're not forcing yourself to become more. You're staying in the zone where it feels good, but nothing new happens. And that's where progress dies. when fear is avoided and comfort becomes the goal. If you want to grow even just a little, you have to be willing to do the thing that makes you uncomfortable. You don't need to move mountains. You don't need to change everything overnight. But you do need to find one thing, just one, that pushes against the limits you've quietly accepted. Maybe it's speaking up when you'd rather stay silent. Maybe it's trying something you've avoided for years because you're afraid to fail. Maybe it's being honest with someone when it would be easier to pretend. These moments are small on the surface, but they hold the power to shift the direction of your entire life. Comfort is not your friend. It's a trap that makes you feel okay while silently pulling you away from who you're capable of becoming. The truth is, most people don't do the things they need to do because they're afraid of discomfort. But fear isn't a reason to stop. Fear is a signal. It's pointing to the area where you're meant to grow. Every time you do something that scares you, not in a reckless way, but in a way that demands more of you, you start to build a different relationship with fear. It stops being something that paralyzes you. It becomes something you can use. A sign that you're on the edge of progress. Most people stay stuck, not because they don't know what to do, but because they never challenge their comfort zone. They make the same choices, go through the same motions, and expect something to change, but nothing ever does. If you want a different result, you have to live differently. You have to act on the thing that makes your hands shake. You have to take a step, even when your voice trembles. Because the version of you that has the life you want, the discipline, the freedom, the respect, the purpose, isn't sitting inside your comfort zone. That version is only found when you do what's hard. Start with today. Don't wait for the perfect time. Don't wait for someone to tell you it's okay. You know what that one thing is. It's the thing you've been thinking about, the thing you've avoided, the thing that if you did it, you'd prove to yourself that you're not held back by fear anymore. Maybe it's applying for something you think you're not ready for. Maybe it's apologizing. Maybe it's asking for something you've been afraid to ask for. The specifics don't matter. What matters is the step. One honest step out of your comfort zone today can begin to unravel years of mental barriers. Fear loses its grip when you move toward it. When you take cake, despite. The more you challenge the edge of your comfort zone, the more you'll realize you can handle discomfort. You can handle rejection. You can handle awkwardness. You can handle failure. And once you realize that, you become someone who can't be stopped by fear. That's when you really start to grow. That's when the things that once scared you start to look small, not because they changed, but because you did. Discomfort is a tool. Use it to find your limits. Then keep pushing. You don't need to make giant leaps. You don't need to shock your system. Just stretch a little beyond what you did yesterday. If you usually stay quiet, speak up once. If you usually avoid pressure, take a little more responsibility. If you usually hide from attention, allow yourself to be seen. Every small stretch creates a shift inside you, and those shifts add up. They become strength. They become confidence. They become momentum. Most people never get momentum because they never take the first uncomfortable step. They wait to feel ready. But readiness comes from action, not the other way around. Do the thing that scares you, and watch how quickly your world begins to expand. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You stopped waiting and started growing. You stopped avoiding fear and started using it. You stopped playing small and started stepping into who you're meant to become. When you build the habit of facing what scares you, you start to live with more courage. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's action in the presence of fear. It's showing yourself that you're stronger than the thing you're afraid of. And the more you prove that to yourself, more your confidence grows. Not in a loud or arrogant way, but in a steady way. A quiet power that comes from knowing you'll do what's necessary, even when it's hard. The comfort zone is easy, but it's empty. There's nothing new there, nothing bold, nothing that changes you. But every time you choose discomfort on purpose, you gain something. You gain skill. You gain mental toughness. You gain belief in yourself. These are not things you can keen or borrow. You have to earn them, and you earn them one uncomfortable step at a time. Don't wait for someone to push you. Push yourself. Don't wait for fear to go away. Move forward with it in your pocket. Don't wait for the conditions to be perfect. Act in the middle of them. That's how progress is built. Not in the easy moments, but in the ones that stretch you, in the ones that scare you, in the ones that remind you you're alive, and capable of more than you thought. You know what your comfort zone looks like. You know the habits that keep you there. You also know what it looks like to challenge it. Today, choose the challenge, choose the fear, choose the stretch, and tomorrow, do it again. Because that's how you grow, that's how you break through, that's how you become someone you're proud of. By doing one thing today that scares your comfort zone. Number 6. Speak truth to yourself, even when it hurts. You don't grow when you lie to yourself. You don't improve when you avoid the truth. One of the most important things you can ever do is face your own reality with complete honesty. And not just the parts that feel good, especially the parts that sting. Especially the things you don't want to admit. That's where real growth begins. When you stop running, when you stop hiding, when you stop pretending, most people don't fail because of lack of effort. They fail because they don't want to face themselves. It takes real strength to say, I'm the problem. It takes courage to admit, I've been making excuses. It's hard to stand in front of a mirror and be honest about your discipline, your decisions, your direction. But that's the foundation for change. That's the moment when everything can start to turn around. Not because things outside of you change, but because you get real with yourself on the inside. Without truth, you stay stuck. With it, you can go anywhere. There's no breakthrough without brutal honesty. You can't fix what you won't face. You can't move forward while pretending everything is fine. You've got to strip away the noise and the cover stories. You've got to look at your habits, your choices, your mindset. Ask yourself the tough questions. Have I been consistent? Am I doing what I said I would do? Have I been wasting time? Have I been blaming others for what I should take responsibility for? Those answers may hurt, but it's that hurt that wakes you up. It's that sting that says you're not where you should be, but you can change that now. Most people avoid this step because it's uncomfortable. It's easier to blame the environment. It's easier to point fingers. It's easier to say, it's not my fault. But that mindset keeps you stuck in the same place year after year. If you want to grow, you have to be willing to hurt a little. You have to be okay with facing your flaws. Not to tear yourself down, but to build something stronger. You can't build anything real on top of lies. You need a solid foundation, and that foundation is built with truth. Growth doesn't come from comfort. It comes from clarity, and clarity comes from honesty. When you admit where you've been weak, you can start building strength. When you admit where you've been lazy, you can begin creating discipline. When you admit where you've been afraid, you can start developing courage. That process is hard, but it's necessary. The more honest you are with yourself, the more power you give yourself to change. Ask yourself, are you really doing your best? Are you using your time wisely? Are you building your future or escaping into distractions? Be honest. No one else needs to hear the answers. This isn't about performance. This is about progress. This is about you being real with you. You've got to be willing to call yourself out. That's what strong people do. They don't sugarcoat things. They don't pretend. They don't wait for someone else to fix their problems. They take ownership. If you've been inconsistent, say it. If you've been unfocused, admit it. If you've made excuses, own them. The power comes in saying the words, not hiding from them. Because once you say the truth, you can do something about it. But if you hide it, it keeps growing in the dark, and eventually, it controls your life. One honest moment can shift your direction. One moment of truth can start a completely new chapter in your life. You can't become your best self by being dishonest about who you are today. You can't develop new habits while pretending your current or another problem. It's painful to admit you've wasted time. It's painful to say you've been letting yourself down. But if you don't admit it, you'll keep repeating it. And every day that passes becomes another opportunity lost. The pain of truth today is far less than the pain of regret 10 years from now. Talk to yourself like someone who actually cares about your future. Someone who won't lie to you to make you feel good in the moment. Someone who wants what's best for you, even if it means saying the hard thing. That version of you is already inside you. The version that's tired of living small. The version that knows you were made for more. You've just got to let that voice get louder than the one that keeps making excuses. No one's watching when you're alone with your thoughts. That's the moment when truth matters most, not when you're around people, not when you're pretending everything is going fine. It's in the quiet moments when no one else can hear you. That's when you have to be brutally honest. You know what needs to change. You know what you've been avoiding. You know what you haven't been doing. Say it, face it, then do something about it. The goal isn't to shame yourself. The goal is to free yourself. Lies are heavy. Denial is exhausting. Pretending takes a toll. But truth is light. It opens doors. It clears your mind. It gives you the clarity to take action. That's what real growth feels like. It's not always exciting. It's often painful, but it's real. It's solid, and it lasts. Speak truth to yourself, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. That's the path to becoming someone you respect. That's the path to building a life that means something. Not a perfect life, not a life without struggle, but a life where you know, deep down, that you're being honest with yourself, that you're doing the hard inner work, that you're not hiding behind stories anymore. That's how you change. That's how you grow. That's how you take control. One truth at a time, one step at a time, one day at a time. Number 7, stay disciplined even when motivation completely disappears. Discipline is the difference between wishing and achieving. When motivation disappears, and it will, you need something stronger to keep you going. Motivation is a feeling, and like every feeling, it comes and goes. Discipline, on the other hand, is a choice, a daily decision, a firm commitment to do what needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not. That's what separates the serious from the casual. That's what separates those who move forward from those who stay stuck. Anyone can do the work when they feel inspired. But very few will continue when the energy is gone, when the excitement wears off, when everything feels heavy and pointless. That's where most people stop. That's where they turn back. But that's also where you begin to build character. That's where you create habits that will carry you through every season. If you only act when you feel great, you'll stay ordinary. If you show up no matter what, you rise. There are going to be days when everything in you wants to quit. When the bed feels too warm, when the work feels too hard, when nothing around you gives you a reason to try. That's when you dig in deeper. That's when you remind yourself of your reasons. You don't get stronger by skipping the hard days. You grow by showing up in the middle of them. One action at a time, one step after another. You stay committed even when nothing around you pushes you to. Discipline is doing the right thing long after the feeling has faded. It's waking up early when you'd rather sleep. It's making the right choices when no one will know. It's staying consistent with your goals when the results are still invisible. That's not easy, but it's necessary. Discipline is the internal voice that says, I'm not done yet. It's the refusal to let laziness or doubt decide your future. You can be tired, you can be uncertain, but you still show up. You don't need motivation to be great. You need structure. You need clarity. You need a system that removes the guesswork. A plan that says, at this time, I do this task, not when I feel like it, not when it's easy. Every day, whether I want to or not. Discipline is not about being in the mood. It's about making your actions non-negotiable. You set a standard and you meet it. That's what winners do. There will be moments when you sit alone with your goals and wonder if it's even worth it. You'll ask yourself if it mattered, if you're getting anywhere, if you should just take it easy. But the truth is, those moments are the test. That's where you build the mental toughness most people avoid. Staying disciplined during those low-energy days builds strength that can't be faked. That's how you create momentum, not by waiting, but by doing. Think about what kind of person you want to become, not just what you want to achieve. Who do you want to be when no one's watching? Who do you want to be when it's raining, when it's quiet, when the whole world feels like it's moving without you? That's where you define your future. In the quiet hours, in the early mornings, in the late nights, in the hours where no one claps, no one watches, and no one praises you. You stay disciplined because you owe it to yourself. If you want confidence, it won't come from talk. It comes from proving to yourself that you can keep your word, that you don't fold under pressure, that you don't wait for perfect conditions. Every time you push through a day without motivation, you earn self-respect, and nothing replaces that. Not applause, not approval, not temporary pleasure. Discipline gives you a sense of control. It tells you that even when life is messy, you still decide your path. Build your day around action, not emotion. Wake up and move. Start the task. Focus on one thing. Don't ask yourself if you're in the mood. Ask yourself what needs to be done. Then do it. The more you train yourself to act, despite the lack of motivation, the easier it becomes. Your mind starts to understand that you're serious, that your future matters more than how you feel in the moment, that you're not here to wait for inspiration. You're here to create it. People talk about motivation like it's magic, but it's not. It fades fast. Discipline is the real foundation. It's the ability to say, this matters. I'm not skipping it. I made a commitment, and I'm keeping it. That's powerful. But that's available to anyone who wants it badly enough. Not just the talented, not just the lucky, but the person who chooses to stay consistent. You don't have to feel strong to be strong. You don't need to feel excited to make progress. What you need is to keep moving, even on the bad day, especially on the bad days. That's when the breakthrough happens. Not because something magical shows up, but because you refuse to stop. You become the kind of person who doesn't back down when it gets hard. You become the kind of person who finishes what they start. If you're tired, work with it. If you're stressed, focus on what you can control. If the motivation is gone, rely on the structure you've already built. Show up anyway. Do the work anyway. Track your effort, not your emotions. Measure your consistency, not your excitement. That's how you build habits that last a lifetime. Habits that carry you through every season. Staying disciplined when motivation disappears is not punishment. It's a gift. It gives you the power to rise above how you feel. It gives you control over your time, your mind, and your result. It's proof that you've matured past emotional decisions, that you can handle discomfort, that you can work when others quit, that you can push when others pause. Keep showing up, even when the spark is gone, even when the energy isn't there, even when you feel like doing nothing. That's when it matters most. That's when you grow the most. That's when you prove to yourself that you're not driven by moods. You're driven by mission. You're here for more than feelings. You're here for progress. Number 8, work on your weaknesses without any more excuses. Every person has areas where they fall short. These weak points can hold you back from reaching your full potential if you allow them to. Growth does not come from ignoring your flaws or pretending they don't exist. Growth happens when you face your weaknesses head on. No more excuses. No more avoiding what makes you uncomfortable. It takes courage to admit where you need to improve. It takes even more courage to take action every day to fix those areas that slow you down. You will never be perfect. Nobody is. But you can become better than you were yesterday. You owe it to yourself to step into the uncomfortable zones, to identify what is dragging you behind and begin working on it deliberately. The moment you stop making excuses is the moment you start taking control of your life. Stop blaming circumstances or other people. Stop waiting for the right moment or perfect conditions. The best time to improve your weaknesses is right now. In this exact moment. When you work on your weaknesses, you build strength in places you never thought possible. You discover parts of yourself that can adapt, learn, and grow beyond your current limits. You develop new skills that open doors. You build confidence from knowing you are willing to tackle your own challenges rather than run from them. Avoiding weaknesses only allows them to grow bigger and become barriers to your success. Facing them shrinks their power over you. The excuses you tell yourself are nothing more than stories you repeat to stay comfortable. Those stories are your enemy. They keep you stuck and frustrated, but you have the power to change the narrative. Instead of saying, I can't, say, I will try. Instead of saying it's too hard, say, I will find a way. Every excuse is a choice to stay where you are or move forward. Choose movement, choose progress, choose growth. Improving weaknesses is not a one-time event. It is a daily commitment. Small, consistent efforts compound over time and create massive change. Every single day, you dedicate a moment to learning, practicing, or adjusting your weak points. You are shaping a better version of yourself. This is how champions are made, not by avoiding what is difficult, but by embracing it fully. You don't have to overhaul everything overnight. That is unrealistic and sets you up for failure. Instead, focus on small, focused actions. Identify one weakness and attack it with deliberate practice. Seek feedback. Be honest with yourself. Track your progress. Celebrate every tiny win. This process creates momentum that builds confidence and leads to even bigger improvements. No one else is responsible for your weaknesses. Your success depends on how you respond to them. Do you make excuses and wait for someone else to fix them? Or do you take ownership and decide to improve regardless of the obstacles? Ownership is powerful because it puts you in the driver's seat. You decide your future by deciding what actions to take next. Working on your weaknesses also requires patience. Change is uncomfortable. Progress is often slow and sometimes invisible. You may feel discouraged or want to quit. That's natural. Growth is never a straight line. It is full of ups and downs, setbacks, and breakthroughs. Staying consistent through the tough moments builds resilience and ultimately leads to lasting transformation. You don't need to be perfect in every area of life, but you cannot afford to ignore what is holding you back. Weaknesses left unchecked become walls between you and your goal. They lower your confidence and limit your potential. When you face them bravely, you build a foundation of strength that carries you through any challenge. Excuses serve only to protect you from discomfort, but also protect you from success. It is easy to blame others, to say you don't have enough time, or that you lack resources. But every successful person has faced similar or greater challenges. What sets them apart is their refusal to let excuses define their story. They push past the resistance. They take action despite the discomfort. Working on weaknesses sharpens your self-awareness. It forces you to look inward and understand where you need to grow. This self-awareness is priceless because it allows you to adjust your strategies, improve your mindset, and become more intentional in your actions. Without it, growth remains superficial and unpredictable. One of the most powerful ways to work on weaknesses is to surround yourself with people who challenge you. Seek mentors, coaches, or friends who hold you accountable. People who will point out your blind spots and encourage you to be better. Isolation allows excuses to grow. Connection fuels progress. Remember that weaknesses do not define your worth or potential. They simply identify areas for improvement. You have the power to transform those areas with focused effort and discipline. Imagine the confidence you will gain when you overcome what once held you back. Imagine how that growth will ripple into every part of your life. Every day you choose to work on your weaknesses is a victory over complacency. It is a step closer to the person you want to be. Don't let excuses steal your future. Take action now. Identify your weak points. Commit to improving them, and show up consistently to do the work. This is how you force yourself to grow daily. Number 9, break one bad habit and replace it with strength. Changing a habit is one of the most powerful things anyone can do to force growth every day. Habits shape the way you live and think, often without you even realizing it. A single bad habit can drain your energy, destroy your focus, and keep you stuck in the same place for years. Yet the good news is that you don't have to live under the control of those habits. You have the power to break them and build new ones that support your success. This process is not easy, but it is simple. It starts with choosing one bad habit to break. Pick the one that causes the most damage or holds you back the most. Focus all your energy on that habit. The key is not to try fixing everything at once. When you concentrate on one thing, your chances of success increase dramatically. Habits live in the small moments of your daily routine. They are often invisible, but very real. That means breaking a bad habit requires awareness. You have to catch yourself in the act. Pay attention to what triggers the habit. It could be a feeling, situation, or even a specific time of day. When you know what sparks your bad habit, you can start to interrupt the pattern before it takes over. Instead of mindlessly repeating the behavior, you create a pause. That pause is your moment of power. Use it to choose something different. Simply trying to stop a bad habit without replacing it rarely works. Your brain looks for something to fill the gap. If you don't provide a positive replacement, the bad habit will sneak back in. That is why replacing the bad habit with strength is critical. Strength means building a new habit that aligns with your goals and values. It could be as simple as replacing scrolling social media with reading a few pages of a book, or swapping unhealthy snacking with drinking a glass of water. The new habit has to be something meaningful to you, something that makes you stronger, healthier, or more productive. Change is hard because habits are wired deep into your brain. Your mind prefers the comfort of routine. That is why it resists new habits. But this resistance is temporary. Every time you successfully replace the bad habit with a stronger one, you weaken the old habit's hold. You rewire your brain to work for you instead of against you. This is how transformation happens. One choice at a time, repeated consistently. When breaking a bad habit and building strength, be patient and forgiving with yourself. It is normal to stumble or fall back into old patterns. What matters is what you do next. Do not let a mistake become an excuse to quit. Instead, treat it as a learning moment. Ask yourself why it happened and what you can do differently next time. This approach keeps you moving forward and strengthens your commitment to growth. Accountability also plays a major role in habit change. Share your goal to break a habit with someone you trust. Ask them to check in with you regularly. When you know someone else is watching and supporting your efforts, it adds motivation and focus. Accountability transforms the process from a private battle into a shared journey, making it easier to stay consistent. Another important element is celebrating progress. Each time you replace the bad habit with strength, you are winning. Recognize these victories no matter how small. These celebrations build positive emotions that reinforce the new habit. Over time, your new strength will become natural and automatic, replacing the old habit completely. Breaking a bad habit is more than changing behavior. It reshapes how you see yourself. You start to believe you have control over your actions and your future. This belief fuels your confidence and empowers you to tackle each bigger challenges. It creates a momentum that lifts every area of your life. It's also important to understand the impact of habits beyond just your personal growth. Your habits affect your relationships, your work, and your health. By breaking one bad habit and replacing it with strength, you improve every aspect of your life. You send a message to yourself and others that you are serious about growth and willing to do the hard work to achieve it. The choice to break a bad habit is a declaration of freedom. It means you refuse to be controlled by old patterns that limit you. Instead, you take charge and design the life you want. That power is available to anyone willing to act. Start today by identifying one bad habit you want to break. Write down why it is harmful and what strength you want to build in its place. Plan your new habit carefully and commit to practicing it daily. When the old habit calls, remind yourself of your purpose and choose strength instead. This is how you force yourself to grow each day. Remember, every habit change is a step toward becoming the person you want to be. It is a daily demonstration of discipline, courage, and self-respect. With each habit broken and each new strength formed, you build a foundation that supports lasting success. Growth is not accidental. It is a series of deliberate actions taken consistently over time. Your habits are the building blocks of that growth. The power to change habits is the power to change your life. You don't have to wait for motivation or perfect conditions. Start small, be consistent, and keep choosing strength over weakness. This is how real change happens. This is how you create a future that reflects your highest potential. This is how you force yourself to grow daily. Number 10, train your focus to beat every lazy thought. Focus is the key that unlocks the door to personal growth and achievement. Without focus, even the greatest talents and plans go to waste. The human mind is naturally drawn to comfort and ease, which makes lazy thoughts very common. These thoughts tell you to wait, to delay, to rest just a little longer, or to avoid the hard work ahead. But those lazy thoughts are the enemy of progress. To grow every day, you must train your focus to overcome them. This training takes effort, discipline, and a clear understanding of what is at stake. The first step to training your focus is awareness. Notice when lazy thoughts enter your mind. Maybe you find yourself scrolling through your phone instead of working on a goal, or you tell yourself you'll start tomorrow, but never do. These moments are signals that your focus is weakening. Instead of fighting against the laziness blindly, pay attention to these signals. Recognize them as opportunities to strengthen your mental control. Training focus means practicing concentration like a muscle. The more you practice, the stronger your focus becomes. Start by setting small time blocks where you dedicate yourself fully to one task. Remove all distractions. This means turning off notifications, clearing your workspace, and deciding that for this set period, your mind will not wander. Even if you only manage 5 minutes at first, this is progress. Build on it slowly but steadily. Over time, these focused moments become longer and more natural. It is important to give your mind clear goals during these focused periods. When you know exactly what you want to achieve, your mind is less likely to drift. Ambiguous or unclear goals allow lazy thoughts to creep in, because your brain has no urgency. Write down specific tasks and break larger goals into smaller, manageable pieces. This clarity sharpens your focus and keeps you anchored. Another powerful way to train your focus is to practice saying no to distractions. Distractions are everywhere, especially in the digital age. Every notification, every message, every temptation to check social media chips away at your ability to focus. Train yourself to ignore these distractions until your focused work is done. This is not always easy, because your brain craves novelty and stimulation. But with repeated practice, ignoring distractions becomes a habit. The ability to say no to distractions is a direct test of your commitment to growth. Lazy thoughts often come with justifications that seem reasonable in the moment. Your mind might say you deserve a break, or that you'll be more productive later. These justifications are tricks that keep you stuck. Train yourself to question these thoughts. Ask if they serve your long-term goals, or just momentary comfort. When you challenge lazy thoughts with honest questions, you weaken their power. Building mental endurance is a crucial part of training focus. Focus is not about working until you collapse. It is about pacing yourself and pushing your limits gradually. You will face moments when your mind screams for rest or distraction. In those moments, remind yourself that growth requires pushing through discomfort. The more you face those moments without giving in, the stronger your focus becomes. Mental endurance grows like a muscle through use and challenge. Training your focus also means taking care of your physical health. The brain needs rest, nutrition, and exercise to perform at its best. Poor sleep or unhealthy eating habits make it harder to concentrate. Regular physical activity increases blood flow to the brain and sharpens mental clarity. Make a daily routine that supports both your body and mind. This foundation strengthens your ability to resist lazy thoughts. Visualization can be a helpful tool for focus training. Picture yourself completing the task despite distractions. Imagine the sense of accomplishment you will feel after you push through laziness. Use these mental images as motivation when focus wanes. Visualization connects your emotions to your goals, giving you an extra boost to resist laziness. Another practical technique is to track your progress. Keep a journal or log of your focused work sessions. Note when you succeed in beating lazy thoughts and when you struggle. Tracking progress makes you accountable to yourself. It also provides insight into patterns of distraction or fatigue. With this information, you can adjust your environment or schedule to better support focus. Remember that training focus is a lifelong process. There will be days when distractions win and your mind feels weak. That is normal. What matters is returning to the practice the next day. Focus grows through consistency, not perfection. Celebrate the wins no matter how small and learn from the setbacks without judgment. Surround yourself with people who respect and encourage your focus. When others see your dedication, they inspire you to keep going. Avoid environments or relationships that constantly pull your attention away. Create a support system that understands the value of focus and growth. Ultimately, training your focus means taking control of your mind. You decide where your attention goes and what thoughts you allow to take hold. The lazy thoughts lose power when you refuse to feed them. Instead, feed your mind with purpose, clarity, and determination. This will transform your daily habits and open doors to new opportunities. Strong focus brings discipline, and discipline is the foundation of growth. Without it, dreams remain distant ideas. With it, they become achievable goals. Focus trains your mind to stay on track and keep pushing forward. This creates momentum that lifts every part of your life. When lazy thoughts knock, meet them with strong focus. When distractions call, answer with clear intention. When fatigue hits, stand firm with mental endurance. This daily practice of focus training is how you force yourself to grow. It is the unseen effort behind every success story. It is the silent power that turns ordinary days into extraordinary progress. The mind you train today becomes the force that carries you tomorrow. Choose to train your focus, beat lazy thoughts, and rise above limits. Each focused moment is a victory. Each victory builds strength. This is how growth happens. This is how you grow every day.